just this week, there was another hate crime against Palestinian-American family, this time in outside of Texas, or outside of Dallas in Texas. A drunk woman, which is literally no excuse, just a footnote, is at a public pool and is verbally harassing a Palestinian family. The mother's two kids are in the pool, and this woman, this crazed woman, tries to drag the kids to the deep end to drown them.
Mm-hmm.
And one kid gets away. The other 3-year-old is she's holding her down underwater. She nearly drowns. A man helps rescue both daughters. Obviously, this woman is arrested. They're considering charging her with hate crimes. But the mother says her daughters are traumatized. They don't want to go outside. They're afraid that this like scary drunk lady is gonna like try to drown them again. And that, I mean, your heart breaks, right? Like my heart breaks because I'm like, this is the fish rotting from the head down. This is the behavior of the United States government on an international level. The, again, denialism coming from the White House that is signaling to everyday racists that they can just do this kind of thing. And again, we talk about Wadia, in Chicago, who was a 6-year-old who was stabbed by his neighbor. It's on and on and on. And I just want to name this because it is something you have, threats of violence is something you have suffered as well. And also, like, I don't know, I guess I'm trying to sort of pivot this into speaking about like a Donald Trump, right? A Trump 2.0, because I think it is really important to remember like some of the stuff that you face down, and I've faced like a fraction of it. Some MAGA get really mad at me these days. Happened because of Trump being elected, the Muslim ban and all of this. So and Biden, because Biden's really good at it, it just continues Trump's policies. I mean, this is just like, let's keep going with it. I guess just maybe like, yeah, maybe some reflections on how this is impacting the Muslim American community and Palestinian American community, especially when even organizations like CARE, right, get targeted simply for investigating these things.
That's right. When I heard the story about these children at a pool, I mean, I was triggered by like at level 1,000. I couldn't believe that even with the amount of anti-Palestinian sentiment that is out there, anti-Arab and anti-Muslim, because bigots are idiots. They think we're all the same thing. They
Right.
think Palestinians are Muslims and Muslims are Palestinians. So it's
Right.
this weird, ignorant, bigotry that they've held for, as decades, particularly around the horrific attacks of 9/11. But imagine you're so hateful that you were willing to kill children. Like, this is what we're talking about here. Like, if this woman is willing to do that here, this is exactly the same sentiment of the Israeli government, who does not care for children, for adults, for women, men, grandpa, grandma. They don't care. And it's to your point. We started with Wadi al-Fayoumi, who's a 6-year-old boy who got literally stabbed by his neighbor, somebody that knew him and knew his mother. His mother was, and so he died. And then his mother was, as you know, also stabbed. And she now has to live and be alive, not only with her wounds of the stabbing, but also of losing her child. Same thing for the father and all those that loved, right, Wadia. Then we had the incident of the 3 boys, as you know, the young men who were wearing keffiyehs, and were also in Vermont. And there's one
Vermont.
literally in a wheelchair, like he is paralyzed. He's going to live with that for the rest of his life, and his friends who were with him and witnessed that happen. But it's also the ones in between, Fran, that you don't hear about, right? Or the things that don't get to be viral, like the assaults on Palestinian women, or women wearing hijab walking into coffee shops and people speaking to them or assaulting or harassing them, people in things as simple as a little parking lot fight over parking, right?
Right.
At a supermarket, that ends up engaging in extreme Islamophobia and extreme anti-Palestinian sentiment, where people start referencing Gaza when they want to even have a normal argument about something. And oftentimes it could end up into some sort of assault. And then we are also watching the violence against protesters that you've seen at campuses across the country. I mean, when I was watching what was happening at UCLA, and I watched the literally these people showed up with little, their clubs, and they're just beating people in the street in this encampment. And I'm like, hello, friends, like, hello, is this not violence to you? Is this not okay? This targeting of pro-Palestinian, anybody or anyone you think is Palestinian or pro-Palestinian, it is outrageous, and it's all over the place. It's everywhere. It's in the way that Palestinians and pro-Palestinians are being trolled in the internet spaces, right? Whether you're being trolled at your college campuses, the way they show up to try to silence our voices across this country. Like this idea that let us say what we got to say. You're saying what you got to say. Let me say what I got to say. Let the students say what they got to say. But this idea of using every resource available to silence the voices, taking people's degrees away from them.
Yep.
This is also a form of violence against our people. Like this idea that we are being further suppressed to the margins. I mean, Muslims already were on the margins. And you know this from the horrific attacks of 9/11. Yes, of course, there was heightened and increased hate crimes after Donald Trump, but I'm not laying that all at the doorsteps of Donald Trump. We've seen hate crimes against Muslim Americans and Muslim immigrants and those perceived to be Muslim since, I mean, people can probably take it way back, but I'll take it back from my experience as a product of the post 9/11 America.
Right.
I've been watching this happen for 20 years. I have seen people killed. I have seen Sikh Americans who wear turbans who've been mistaken for Muslims being also harassed and killed as well. We have seen vandalisms of mosques. We have seen the burning down of mosques. I mean, we can show examples. You've seen the mosque controversies, banning Muslims from building religious institutions. We've seen the Islamophobia industry at the highest echelons. And because people didn't hold them accountable and thought they were fringe, they all went to work for Donald Trump. So remember, those people were before Donald Trump. But because people in our movements and in our country didn't stop these people, didn't hold them accountable, did not expose them when it was necessary, these people were no longer fringe. They went from the fringe to the most powerful place in the world, and that is the White House. And so that's the kind of dangers that we allow to happen in this country. And then once a Donald Trump comes along, all Donald Trump does is he creates a comfortable environment for them, right? He's not they were already there without a Donald Trump. He just gives them a little bit more space to do what it is that they want to do.
Let's do the thought exercise. This genocide happens under Donald Trump. What do liberals do? What do liberal Zionists do?
Listen, this is a major conversation, friend, that I've had multiple times, especially convincing people early on around ceasefire. No one can deny and look me in the eye and tell me that if right now, today, Donald Trump was the president of the United States of America, the American people would be on the streets in the millions. And they would literally be making the comparison that Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu are two peas in the same pod. These are two right-wing governments that don't care about peace. These are people who don't care about the sanctity of life. And they will go on, and it will be this all anti-Trump, anti-Trump, anti-Trump. And now, because it's not Trump, right? It's not Trump. There are people that will literally fold themselves into a pretzel to try to understand or to try to defend the president of the United States right now and say, he's doing everything that he can.
Yeah.
You know, Joe Biden is not Donald Trump. And then you tell them, okay, and they say Donald Trump is the worst thing that could ever happen. And listen, you don't got to explain, Fran, to any Muslims about how bad Donald Trump is. And I'm outraged by anyone that tries to make that argument with us, because if anybody knows, trust me, we know. And you know damn sure well I know. But this idea that we're trying to explain to Arab American Muslim voters, Palestinian voters, that there's something worse than genocide.
Yeah.
I don't understand how you have that argument, and that this idea that even in this election, that instead of having a conversation about ending a genocide, we're having a conversation about an election, like who gets to be the president. No, what about let's end the genocide? That's what the people want. They want to stop to bloodshed. And that bull right now, Fran, is not in the court of Donald Trump. That bull is in the court of Joe Biden, and he needs to take that responsibility.
Absolutely. And I've said this many, many times, and this has nothing to do with whether you think Joe Biden is better or worse than Donald Trump, obviously. And this is what I appreciate about you, Linda, is that you can say that, but also I know you're not someone who puts Trump and Biden on an equal footing. You're like, no, but Biden is the president now, and we need a ceasefire. I mean, months and months and months ago. And every single day, look, Gazans are facing imminent famine. We're talking about middle of July. It's full-blown famine. So every single hour counts on this. Mm-hmm. And I appreciate that about you, because I also feel like, again, and I've heard you on other shows, but I also want to check in. You know, you did a lot of work in 2020, basically being like, we're voting for our enemy with Donald Trump. We're voting for our enemy with Joe Biden. Let's get a better adversary in there so we can hit him and push him. And actually, it worked on some issues. It definitely has been harder on this issue. But I guess I'm like, you know, everyone, I think a lot of liberals are like, but are you going to vote for Biden? Are you going to, that's all they want from you. Mm-hmm. And you're like, hey, we want to stop death. And all they want to do is like, make sure that you're voting for Biden. So I guess just how are you positioning yourself
Mhm.
right now in this electoral cycle, the beginning of which, or are you not even like, you're just like, no, ceasefire today, ceasefire yesterday, ceasefire tomorrow? Like where are you positioning yourself in this?
I position myself in two places, Fran. I'm in the urgency of now, and that is a ceasefire. We need to stop the bloodshed of the Palestinian people. There is no way around that right now. We have to do that. I'm in this place of demanding a weapons embargo on Israel. We have to end military aid to Israel. And I think more people are leaning into that. We saw statements from the AME Church, the longest standing Black church in the United States of America, saying end military aid to Israel. We saw the NAACP come out about arms embargo. And the NAACP has not, in fact, been a long-standing, radical pro-Palestinian organization in its entire history. So we're starting to see that sentiment become a little bit more mainstream. So for me in this electoral season, what I've been telling people, because everybody plays a different role, Fran, and I want to make it very clear for the folks that listen here. There are protesters. There are people that do disruption. There are civil disobedience type folks. There are political people who are working the political apparatus. There is always going to be people that play different roles. So I don't want anyone to try to compare that, oh, it's the people doing the political stuff are better or smarter than the people doing the, protesting or whatnot. Everybody's playing their role right now. Here's my position. I'm a down ballot a person right now, and that's where I focus my energy. At the end of the day, if you don't have the right people in Congress, if you don't have the right people in the state legislature, why do we have to wake up every 4 years with the same conversation about who's the president of the United States of America? Right now, most of the most outrageous things that are happening in this world right now, right, are happening in our state legislators. That is where all of the reproductive rights fights are happening, where the anti-DEI, this is the anti-immigrant legislation, like it's happening in our state legislators. So this idea that everyone wants to have this every 4-year conversation about who the president is. Look, Joe Biden's been the president for 3 years already, right? Or in his 4th year now. So the question becomes, what did Joe Biden do for us in the last 4 years? And that's the question people are going to ask themselves right now as we move into a November election. So for me, I'm positioning myself like my people right now. They are raw. They are sensitive. Do not patronize them. Do not try to start a blame game on Arab American voters in Michigan. These people are watching bloodshed of their people. The people of Michigan are from Lebanon. They are from Yemen. They are Palestinians. They do not want to hear you come to them and tell them how Donald Trump is worse. They want to hear you say to them, I see you. I hear you. The president has power now. We are going to stand with you and demand that this president get us a ceasefire ASAP.
What's going on, Frantifa? If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel right now. Hit that button. And also, you can become a patron and support the show every single week. Get access to bonus episodes and exclusive merchandise. Patreon.com/bitchuation room. Do